nice.
Bucket of water.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, so this is pressing them. There's a bladder inside that expands and pushes them up against this.
Placing, putting your feet in the bin and stop. That's the modern way. Yeah, some. Put there.
And you get dark plum,
No, for sure.
rich flavors, some earth,
Oh, you'll like the other two barrels better.
a little baking spice.
Yeah, I like this. Our Tempranillo fans will love it.
But your Tempranillo has more fruit than some Tempranillos I've had and less tannin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it makes it drink now, as opposed
Yeah.
to having
No,
to set it down.
This
So
is
food friendly.
So you think the other two barrels of Tempranillo are a notch above?
Mhm.
I think that'll be.
They actually have a better nose. This one, this one actually,
Nice nose.
I know, but the other ones had a better nose.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm enjoying drinking the North and South and noting the way that they have changed in the bottle. When I first bought that case, I preferred the South. Now I'm finding that the difference between the South and the North is not as pronounced as it once was, and I'm liking the North a great deal better than I did originally. It was always a good wine, but now it's really becoming a really lovely wine.
I think that shows why, in the end, as our estate wine, it's better to blend the two.
Mm-hmm.
But it is fun to watch how the wine develops and changes, and that each part of the vineyard still contributes something to the complexity of the overall estate Syrah.
What vintage is the north and south? What year?
That is
15. It's a 15.
15, yeah.
And we
Wow.
can do that again in 18. So in 18, we have
Ooh, it'll be-
terraces
We can do north and south, 18.
Good, I will be happy to do the barrel tasting for you.
That's right, when we finally open.
Well, when we get open, I
can
will,
set you up inside.
I will go back inside and do the barrel tasting
We
again.
can do our fun party up at the property. Okay. Can I convince anyone to change directions? Because
Mm.
I'm like that commercial.
Yes, we need to. We need to.
There's more.
But wait, there's more.
So,
So I actually went right down the board, 1, 2, 3, 4, with both nose and flavor. So the +1 was number 1,
okay.
middle 2 and 3, -1, 4. 4 to me was a little bit on the flat side. I got some licorice on the nose, but not enough to make it super interesting. And 1, I think, being my first choice, is I thought the nose was really nice. It almost had a beautiful floral texture to it. It had enough tannin to keep me interested. I like the flavor of it. Number 2 I thought was good as my number 2 choice. There was a little bit of caramel on the nose, which I liked.
So you did 1, 2, 3, 4.
So she did a
Favorite-
+1, a +0, a -0, and a -1.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Those are very accurate comments, that's very much what
All right, Steve, why don't you go ahead?
I went 2, 1, 3, 4.
Oh, this is
Oh,
fun.
wait, alright, so hold on.
So 2
Two-
is your +1.
2 is my +1.
Yes. 1 is your +0.
1 is my +0. And my caveat is it was very close.
Okay. 3 was your minus.
3 was 0 minus,
Yep.
and 4 was my -1.
Okay.
I went back and forth on 1
Right,
and 2
wait.
too.
So did I.
Like I like the caramel part of the number 2.
But the flavor of number 1, you had vanilla pipe tobacco on that
and
back,
it
on the
stood
back
out.
end of the
It
flavor.
stood out more to me.
That's where I said I was about to drive myself crazy because I liked the nose on 2 better, but I was going to give the flavor nod to 1.
Alright, so let me understand. So Steve, you were
+0,
+0,
+1,
+1.
-0, -1.
Yep.
So your favorite was
My favorite was number 2.
2.
But just barely.
And your second favorite was
Number 1.
Yeah.
Although in many respects I liked the taste of number 1, maybe just, I love that vanilla pipe tobacco, which I wasn't getting on number 2.
Okay, so Tamara, what was yours again?
Number 1 I said was the best.
So that was your +1.
That was my +1. Number 2 was my +0. Number 3 was my -0. Number 4 was my -1.
Jody, what did you do?
Tracy.
Okay. Not necessarily in the same order. So, but my +1 is the first one. And I couldn't
Really?
identify that pipe tobacco, but now that you've planted that in my head, I'm
Captain
getting
Black vanilla
Yeah,
pipe
but I got really like this real nice baked cherry
Mhm.
in there. And there's a little tartness to create interest.
No,
My-
I think the flavor of Captain One was probably my best
Flavor, yeah. So for me though, number 2 is my -1.
Interesting.
I actually, the first time I smelled the nose, I got pencil eraser, that rubber smell, and we've had that conversation about that. I actually found it harsh. I found the texture to be harsh.
To be honest, I got a little pencil eraser when I smelled all of them in the beginning,
Yes,
But-
and now it's kind of
but it's gone.
blown off.
Yeah, it's blown off.
Yeah. So, but I did get almost more of a strawberry tart character out of number 2. My number 3 is my -0, and number 4 is my +0. I liked on number 4, I got a little bit more vanilla on the nose. And there's a tartness there, a little bit more like in that cranberry.
Yes.
But
The little
so-
red cherry cranberry, but number 4, and when you said Grenache, number 4 is to me is the Grenacheous.
Grenacheist?
Yes. But to me, I agree with Tamara. I found it a little flat, a little like Oakland.
All right, Jody, you want to go next?
Okay, so I judged mine a little differently. My number 1 was a -1 on the nose and a +0 on the flavor. Number 2 was a +0 on the nose and a +1 on the flavor, which I thought I had a good mid palate, whereas the number 1 had no front palate at all when I first tasted it, although it did get better as it sat there. Number 3 was a +0 on the nose, +1 on the flavor, but I thought it had no finish. There was no end palate. And then number 4 was a -1 on the nose and a -0 on the flavor, so it was my least favorite. I thought there wasn't much of the mid palate, and it had kind of a sharp finish that I didn't like as much. So I was kind of tied between 2 and 3.
So can you now summarize and combine into a +1, a -1, and 2 zeros?
I would say number 2 is +1, number 3 is +0, number 1 is -0, and number 4 is -0. -1, sorry, -1.
Okay.
So far, number 4 is coming out on the bottom of the pile.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It is.
Consistently.
Yes. All right, Randy.
Make sure I got my numbers right. That's a -0 then. Okay, so and I don't have any fancy smancy stuff to talk about, but what
You
I
have
like.
yummy or not yummy?
Yeah, yummy or not yummy. I tried to do the tannins and all that kind of stuff and all that. But the one that alright, so my top dog, my +1, I guess that's what it would be, is number 2. My -1 is number 4. My in-betweeners were +0 was number 1, and -0 is number 3. So I think I like 2, 1, 3,
And 4.
4.
You had the same ranking as I did.
Oh, really?
Yes, he did.
Okay,
Yes.
so I total
1
are-
is 2, 2 is 2, 3 is 0, and 4 is -4.
So 1 and 2 are tied.
Right. So
Between
I
the four.
think it's worth revealing now and looking at the blend
Let's see
and
what-
talking through 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And there is more 1 and 2 to be revisited.
So
Yeah.
what are the blends? I'm dying to know. What's number 4, the one that came in?
There's 5 of us, aren't you a tiebreaker?
Oh, that's right, they're all 5.
No, it's just, it's a total of points.
Okay.
It's not a tiebreaker. There are enough of us that gave number 1 a total of 2 points and number 2 a total of 2 points. And
Yeah,
then
I
all
see
the
what
other
you're saying.
points came down to 3 and 4.
Now we do a tiebreaker.
But in all honesty, wait a minute though.
That's gonna be fun because
Did I do the math wrong, Randy?
No, but I would tell you that the number 1 has a +2, but it has a +0 and a -0. So it sort of has a +2 plus. The
Right.
2 is +2, but it had a Tamara had, or
I had a
you had a
-1.
-1 on it, and Tamara had a 0. So
So number 1 is slightly ahead, is that what you're
I'm
saying?
saying number 1 is just slightly ahead.
In our non-scientific,
Yes.
But it's close enough that I think it's fair to do a tiebreaker.
I agree.
between one
I
and
agree.
two.
well, I think it's a good discussion.
I agree.
But I'm dying to know because number 4 to me is the Grenacheous.
Yeah, what are the blends?
Hold on. Okay. So A number 1. Number 1 is basically, I'm just gonna make it real simple, 3 barrels of Grenache, 1 barrel of Syrah, and 1 barrel of Tempranillo. So the Syrah and the Tempranillo are equal.
So it's 52-2. 50, 25.
There you go.
What do you say was 3 barrel what?
It's well, it's not 50. It's 60% 20/20.
I thought, 3
So
barrels.
3 barrels.
Of 1 and 1.
Yeah. So it's 60
Oh,
20
yeah,
20.
you're right. 60,
Wait,
20.
wait, 3 barrels of what?
Grenache.
Alright, 3 barrels of G. Yep, keep going.
20% or 1 barrel of Syrah and 1 barrel of Tempranillo. But 60 20 20.
It's fairly Grenache heavy.
60, 20, 20. Interesting. Okay. Number 2.
Number 2, I threw in a ringer here.
Oh
Just
no.
because I can, is only Grenache and Syrah. There is no Tempranillo.
Which is why I liked it the best, probably.
So it was 60% Grenache, 40% Syrah.
Damn it, Teeth. It's not the trois amis.
It's not, but
The three friends.
I wanted to also pour the best wine we can pour. If we have to come up with a new label name, we can. Okay. That's number 2. Number 3. Oh boy, can't do these percentages in my head. Number 3 is the 3 barrels of Grenache, 1.5 barrels of Syrah, and a half barrel of Tempranillo.
60, 30, 10. Maybe.
Seems like it
That
should go
sounds
that way.
right.
Yeah, that's close.
And then
Well, we didn't.
number 4 is the 3 barrels of Grenache, 3/4 of a barrel of
Right.
Syrah. It's the lightest, well, until we exclude Tempranillo altogether. Number 4 only had 5% Tempranillo. So it's 60, 35, 5.
Interesting.
Which is similar to what we had, which is the original trois, is it? No, I'm thinking Z, 60, 35, 5.
Yeah.
That's interesting, that only a little Tempranillo, but actually a little more Grenache, and yet we all thought it was the flattest.
Yeah.
And yet we all liked it without any Tempranillo at all, which was number 2.
Right.
But
That's weird.
number 4 was heavy on the Grenache.
They're
No, they're all the same.
Oh, they're all the
They're
same
Grenache.
Grenache.
They're all
Okay.
60% Grenache.
Gotcha.
60,
Gotcha.
60, 60, 60. 3 barrels of
It
Grenache.
was the heaviest on the Syrah
Okay.
to Tempranillo. So really,
Interesting.
all I did was play with the Syrah and Tempranillo.
Mm-hmm.
In all honesty, we have 3 barrels of Tempranillo, and I was not willing to give more than a barrel to this blend.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever we
Because you want to have
don't
2 barrels
use,
of Tempranillo.
whatever we don't use in this, just gives us more Tempranillo, which is also good.
Mm-hmm.
So the question that we need to decide is, do we go with 1, which is a GST, or do we go with 2, which is a GS?
Correct.
Do we want to put in that 20% of Tempranillo?
To raise the conversation and have an interesting. All right. So
Well-
would people like to revisit?
Yes.
1 and 2, please.
Yes, I would say revisit 1 and 2. Because like I say, even though they're both +2, the
A and
1
D.
is slightly higher than the 2 because
A.
I think the flavor on 1 has maybe a little more complexity.
Oh, thank you, Steve. I will do that
okay,
as
so
well.
this was first place, second place, third place. This is first place.
A. A is 1.
I feel like the conversation about having 3 varietals as part of this blend is kind of important to the value we've put on this blend.
And that's a
People
factor.
relate to.
And what people relate to, because that Toisamie, 3 friends, 3 grapes, you know, that is such a huge thing for people.
No, I
They
agree.
recognize it, they
Yeah, it comes
appreciate
down
it
to
a little
marketing.
more.
Yes,
I mean,
please.
it really does. And yeah.
And we have
And,
blends that are.
and that's where you take the analytics away and you just say, what feels right?
Right.
This is where you say, what can we sell more of? What's the story?
Right, what is the story? I agree that the story is.
Because there's more to it than just the actual taste, especially when
As
it's
long as
close.
the wine itself is solid, then.
I mean, because that's what I say. 1 got a 1, 1, a 2, and a 3, and 2 got a 1, 1, 2, and 4. So 2 was slightly less than 1, slightly less than 1.
And I think about
just
just
a
in
tick off.
general, because we do a Cab Syrah blend, we do,
Yep.
you know, we have Syrah in the bag jet. I mean, I think that
Yep.
putting something that has the 3 grapes in it is different for us, and we like that. We, you know,
No,
we like people to talk
agree.
about
And
the selling.
I think I'll throw something else out there. I wouldn't mind trying it now that we have the Toisamie open, the 15. I'd love to see if 1 or 2 actually, I think 1's gonna be more like the original Toisamie.
A little more relatable to
A little more relatable.
So
They'll
those
say,
who
oh yeah,
love
this is just
Toisamie
like the 15
will be able
Toisamie.
to
The
fall in love
17
with
and
this.
15 are close. So can I do that?
Yeah.
So open this,
Absolutely.
in number 4, put the Toisamie, because I think 1 tastes more like the current Toisamie. Well, maybe not, now that it's been in the bottle.
Definitely a lot, the 2015 is a lot later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you
So
can
I'm
also
kind of thinking of
compare-
heritage,
Oh, there.
that 1 is closer to the original Toisamie, and 2 is slightly
Where do you
off.
want your Toisamie?
Which is what the numbers say. The numbers say that number 1 got more votes, slightly more.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very different nose.
Oh, yeah.
You
can
can't.
tell, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can't even tell.
Isn't that amazing?
The nose on number 1 has developed nicely. But so is the nose on 2.
Mm-hmm.
I love describing that nose as pipe tobacco.
Vanilla pipe tobacco.
Vanilla.
I definitely get more caramel on number 1
And I
Yep,
think
it's showing.
on the nose.
the nose on number 2 is kind of dissipating more for me. I think the nose on number 1 is coming across as being stronger.
Yep.
That's a good point, yeah. I get that.
And I want something to sit in my glass and then not have a beautiful nose to it. I want it to develop. I don't want it to fall.
The nose is holding on 1, it is not holding on 2. That's the
Right.
Tempranillo.
Yeah, that's true.
Number
But
2.
I also agree that they're both really nice.
Number 2 is a lovely. Number 2 is a lovely wine. Number 1 has more complexity.
I've changed my rating.
Ah!
I'm loving the tannin on number 1 too.
I'm liking 1 better now.
Mm-hmm, me too.
2 is not as interesting as number 1. It's a very nice wine, very pleasant. I mean, if you gave it to me and said this is what we're having for dinner, I'd
Wow.
be perfectly happy.
You're right.
But 1 is very good.
You're right. Huh.
It's a really easy blend to put together too.
I know it
a
is.
barrel, a barrel, a barrel, a barrel, and a barrel.
3, 1, 1.
That's a nice wine.
It is a nice wine.
Has a long finish too.
Yeah, one. I
I
like
could
both.
sell
I like
the
you. I
crap
like
out
both.
of that
They were
wine.
my top. They were my top 2.
The color's a little brighter than the 15. You know, the Grenache.
Well, yeah, the
hasn't
15 is-
oxidized. There's a little oxidation on the 15 now.
Yeah, a little oxidation. And you know, 15's a nice wine. I like this a lot better. But then I like a GST better than I like a GSM, for the
Interesting.
most part.
Yeah, it
Are
is funny to do
similar,
side
but
by side. They are different.
It's the tannin from the Tempranillo that really
And my palate has changed. When I started doing a lot of wine drinking, when I moved up, here, well, even 5 years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would have liked the GSM better.
Well, and remember the 15 is a GMS.
Right.
Or
Yeah,
GMS, right.
GMS, yes.
Yes,
good point.
yeah, GMS.
But now I'm liking the GST. And I've noticed I'm liking, for the most part, slightly darker wines.
It is certainly, there's a tartness to the 15. This is a little smoother. And actually, really, after we moved out of that sort of, my brain
What is
just stopped
keeping you
working.
with the GS? Would be
We move out of the drought years, all of our wines.
Which was
Got that.
Thanksgiving.
They don't
It
have
doesn't-
that
it
same
doesn't
tartness
come
to
close
them.
to
They
anything
are
else that we
richer.
want.
There's a fruitiness there.
So for our video, Tracy, do you want to kind of give some history on GSMs and why the Tempranillo fits into this blend for us? Or, I mean, should we add that in here?
But GST is a recognized Spanish
Yeah.
blend.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently we should have
See?
Steve
So it's
speak
the
about
moody.
it. Let's
Yeah.
have Steve talk about it.
They do have Syrah in Spain.
Yeah.
But, and of course, Tempranillo is the main ingredient in the Rioja, the Spanish Rioja,
Yep.
from central and east central Spain. And Grenache is Garnacha.
Yep.
And actually, Grenache came to France through Spain. So,
Yes, it did. I do remember that.
so the Spanish do make a blend. And in fact, this is actually not very, very similar to a Spanish Rioja.
So I think we have to redesign our mule to have like a Spanish
Well, I mean, it's now that
That's a
it's now
good
that
sombrero
sombrero.
or something.
it's now that
Castanets?
Oh,
yeah,
there we go.
it's now the Tres Amigos.
Yeah,
I was
Tres
thinking it'd be
Amigos.
the trois amis with the Spanish bastard. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. The Basque Tres Amigos.
Yeah,
The
the
Basque.
The Basque.
Trois amis. Yeah. But this is
Well,
for us. The challenge is when we were hoping to get Mourvèdre, we did not get Mourvèdre in 17, and then we hoped to pick up Mourvèdre last year,
well, the power went off.
and the power went out.
We lost power for
And
3
we
days
had
and we
no
couldn't,
ability to
we didn't have our generator.
destem.
Right, and so we had to leave the Mourvèdre hanging on the,
And I wasn't going to
Right.
I could have done a whole cluster ferment, I guess, but chose not to, although that probably would have been good with Mourvèdre. But
Actually, would have been a nice wine.
we didn't, so this is
Well, I-
honoring that Grenache Syrah, and we need, to your point, Tamara, we needed a third. It's nice to have a third wine. It's nice that this is a trio blend.
It's a more complicated wine.
I agree.
I
like
really
it.
thought that we would find, I think, so truly, my sense of harshness out of this is when the Syrah increased, as opposed to, so the tannins of the Tempranillo are a bit more refined than the Syrah tannins. So
Yeah.
as the Tempranillo dropped off and the Syrah percentages came up, and for me, number 4, number 2, which was just Grenache and Syrah, to me was the harshest one.
Yeah, you had
I
that,
didn't-
you
I-
had that as your worst.
Yeah.
That was your -1.
I liked it because I thought it had a nice richness of flavor, but it did not have the complexity. And as it sits in the glass, number 1 improves, number 2 does not.
Yeah.
In fact, number 2 gets a little less exciting.
Yeah. And I don't even really pick up on much of a nose on number 2 at all now.
No,
kind of-
it's not.
No, the nose on number 2 is gone totally flat.
Yeah.
Not totally,
And the
almost.
flavor has kind of muddied. It kind of doesn't pop out anymore. There's no
Number 1,
distinction.
the nose holds.
Number 1.
Yeah, it's a real, yeah. Like I said, so it's, yeah. I am just surprised at how much Tempranillo is in the blend, but it's because there's less Syrah in the blend.
Tempranillo, I found, is a funny wine. I've had some Tempraneos that were so tannic, you thought you were chewing an oak plant, stave. Or that you were, that were so sort of rough. Because it can be a varietal that needs years to soften. But other Tempraneos, no. Other Tempraneos are much more user-friendly.
When we did the Wine on 49 segment on Tempraneos, Greg Bayaki and Ann Kramer were certainly talking about their Tempraneos and talking about their challenge to sort of tame those tannins. And I kind of, I spoke up and I'm like, we don't have that problem with our Tempranillo. And they asked, well, how old is the vineyard? And I said, how old is Paul and Jamie's vineyard? About our age, right?
I think it's younger than
A little
that.
younger than ours.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
we'll
not
say
even
12
15.
years.
Yeah, 12 years or so.
And they said, it's a younger vineyard. So, they're working with vines that are older than that.
And our
so-
Tempranillo is so much lighter than
Light,
their
yeah.
Tempraneos.
Which is fascinating because it's actually really deep color, but then
Yeah, the
it's
body of
thin,
it is lighter.
but the body is lighter. Yeah,
I mean-
which I think makes it a real pretty blend with the Grenache.
And interestingly enough, Syrah usually has a fairly soft tannin, but the tannins in this Syrah are
We
not
don't have
as,
soft tannins.
they're not as,
Moulin Rouge doesn't have soft tannins.
yeah.
So, Tina,
Unless you put in a lot of new French oak.
Trace, do you have Tempranillo here by itself?
Yeah, I have all three of these, all on their own.
Let's taste what's left? We have 2 barrels of Tempranillo if we go with one barrel. Let's see what the Tempranillo is gonna taste like.
Oh, it won't tell you 100%. So what I did do is I tasted all 3 barrels of Tempranillo, and I found the 2 that I liked together.
Oh, wow.
And this was actually the leftover barrel.
Wait, so this
So
is the lesser of the
yeah, this is
three?
the lesser.
This is
of
the
three.
least of the 3 barrels.
And these
So-
are all 17s.
Yes.
Okay.
This will be a vintage- this will be a vintage
this
wine.
is what would go into the
What?
Balsamique.
Yes.
The other 2 would be the
The
single
Tempranillo
varietal.
blend.
Well, that's fair. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah, let's
the,
try it. Let's see what let's see. Yeah.
It still sells
All right.
pretty darn
It's a
well.
nice sin, but it's not a super typical.
So we
wine,
have
which
direction.
makes it super sellable.
We do have direction.
So we have we're doing a Grenache Syrah Tempranillo.
it's a
60.
dryers in the
Does
menu.
anyone
Probably
does
fine
anyone
for
have a
itself.
recommendation on the label of would we rather introduce our Trois Amis as a GTS or a GST? The Syrah and the Tempranillo are equal? Do we want to
GSP.
be
GST, it sounds like a Pontiac.
Is there history in making the label more like a GSM or because we did the opposite, we did a GMS, so.
We
is
did a
there-
GMS, so it would be
So-
easier to tell people instead of a GSM, we made a GST.
Yeah.
I would agree with you on that.
I would agree. I
That
think
makes
it's a
more
Do you-
sense to me.
Do you have to, totally redo the label and get permission and?
Well,
Yes.
yeah.
On this because the grapes have changed, but if the
Because if
grapes
you
don't
do-
change, we didn't have to.
If you do,
GTO.
I would suggest
There's no.
renaming it.
What would you do? Oh.
You want to,
What's
what
the-
do
What's
you rename
the
it
O
to?
in green?
Tres Amigos.
But it's more,
There isn't an O.
well, alright,
It's
you're
gotta
saying
be-
the
you gotta put
Grenache
oranges
came from
in it.
Spain as well.
Yeah.
So we're a
It's a
French
GST.
winery.
I don't know what mule is in Spanish. El Mule Rojo.
Oh.
Well, I mean, if
Yeah.
if Izzy can go from Borjon to Las Portales for his Spanish varietals, he doesn't bottle Mourvedre, he bottles Monastrell.
Yeah, he does
Right.
it with straw.
Right.
You're right.
So, I mean, you could go from Le Moulin Rouge to El Mule
I will tell you,
Rojo.
there are more people who come into this tasting room who can pronounce Tres Amigos than Trois Amis. That's
Dos
for sure.
amigos. Tres amigos.
So, there you are.
Tres amigos. We could do the Trois Amis to the Tres amigos.
Yep.
That would be kind of. That would be.
Right
kind
that
of,
at the beginning.
that would be
and everybody
kind of.
said
That would be
no.
kind of fun. for
Remember,
marketing.
I
Well, we
mean,
didn't have, it was Mourvedre.
Yeah.
wasn't there a movie called the Tres Amigos?
Yes,
Oh,
there
yeah.
was.
The
Yes.
three
Steve
amigos.
Martin.
The
Steve
three
Martin.
amigos. All right, the
Steve
three
Martin.
amigos.
Yeah, they didn't bother
and,
with it.
yeah.
Well, unless that phrase is copyrighted, you're going to end up in trouble. Call
So
it the
there's
three
one
amigos.
amigo,
Call it the three amigos.
2 amigos, 3 amigos.
There you
Oh,
go.
it's Trace.
Exactly.
Yeah. Those yeah, I like it. I like
So
it.
anyway, that's just a thought.
That's we went from the Trois Amis to
To the
Tres
three of-
Amigos.
To the Tres Amigos.
I like it, because we
If
went
it's
from
just a
French
label
to
thing, make it
Spanish.
easy.
Yeah, but we have to change it anyway.
Yeah.
You have to change it
Yeah,
anyway,
we
to
gotta
go,
change it
go
right
all
now.
through the hassle of the
We
approval.
could change,
of-
we could change the
They
letter now
would be
to
able to pronounce it better.
Tres Amigos.
Yep, Tres
Instead of
Amigos.
the Trois Amis, it's the Tres Amigos. I like it. That's what makes stories of winemaking fun.
And,
That's what people come
and
into
it
the tasting room
increases
doing.
the story, because you can tell them that it used to be the Trois Amis, we had a Mourvedre in there, now we're going with Tempranillo, and it's a Spanish blend.
So we went from French to Spanish.
And exactly,
So we changed the name to, yeah, I like it.
we moved southwest, we went into Spain, and now it's Garnacha and Syrah and Tempranillo.
And can you put some kind of a notation in there that this is
I like
our
it.
Rioja blend, that this is something that
Well,
we've
yeah.
expanded and done something different with, but we always want to be very consistent with our three friends, our three vintage, our three grapes.
The
our-
hilarious question would be whether they would, no, he wouldn't. Our Four Fires, if we'd be allowed to pour this in the,
And this,
And
in the
Spanish
Iberian,
versus
in the
French.
Iberian.
You
But-
should be.
Yeah, yeah.
Should be.
You
pour in the
should be.
Spanish
is
tent
a
Now-
versus
percentage
the-
enough?
Now,
No,
I
the
don't know.
Iberian. It's the Iberian tent versus the French tent.
Now, I don't know if, I don't know to what extent Gorman would be difficult with this, but, you should be.
Yeah, I would agree.
Don't ask, don't tell.
I like it.
Exactly.
I like
When,
this.
when will there be another Four
And frankly,
Fires?
if you look at
Next
Four,
grade,
if you look at Four Fires,
No.
there's all sorts of stuff being poured.
We might-
Yeah, that's
Because,
true.
because
But you have to
the
still first
Iberian
get
tent
into
is
the
never
region.
as full as the
But
French.
you could do that, we could do the Tempranillo and then we could pour the Tres.
Tres Amigos,
Tres Amigos.
Garnacha, Syrah y
Instead of the
Tempranillo.
Plaza Amiga, we go to Tres Amigos. I love it. What a marketing.
See, I do marketing.